I, Ho Chi Minh, leader of Northern Vietnam, declare that Vietnam is to be a democratic republic.
Congratulations, you, Go Dinh Diem, are now the president of Southern Vietnam.
Thank you, I feel honored. Being pro-American, the U.S. troops are going to help our troops, which is a huge advantage to us.
Up, down, up, sit-ups. Up, down, jumping jacks. 1, 2, 3. Ready? Aim. Fire.
We want freedom! 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 We want freedom!
Because Go Dinh Diem was arresting the Viet Minh, they started using guerrilla warfare tactics in southern Vietnam. Because of these tactics, American military advisors were killed.
President Ngo Dien, we have discovered a trail. We believe it is the northern Vietnamese coming into the south to take us over. I heard someone call it the Ho Chi Minh Trail.
I will call President Kennedy.
Okay.
Hello?
President Kennedy,
Yes?
this is Go Dinh Dien from South Vietnam.
Oh yes, how are you doing?
We have discovered a trail from the north to the south, giving northern Vietnam access to the south.
Oh dear, sounds like you're in quite a pickle.
We need your help.
Sure, I'll send about 500 more troops to keep out the northern Vietnamese.
Thank you.
President Ngo Dinh Dien is dead. He's dead.
On August 2nd, the destroyer Maddox reported it was attacked by a North Vietnamese patrol boat. It was an act of aggression against us. We were in international waters. I sent officials from the Defense Department out, and we recovered pieces of North Vietnamese shells that were clearly identified as North Vietnamese shells from the deck of the Maddox. So there was no question in my mind that it had occurred. But in any event, we didn't respond. Two days later, the Maddox and the Turner Joy, two destroyers, reported they were attacked.
Where are these torpedoes coming from? Well, we don't know. Presumably from these unidentified craft.
There were sonar soundings, torpedoes had been detected, other indications of attack from patrol boats. We spent about 10 hours that day trying to find out what in the hell had happened. At one point, the commander of the ship said, "We're not certain of the attack." Another point, they said, "Yes, we're absolutely positive." And then finally, late in the day, Admiral Sharp said, "Yes, we're certain it happened." So I reported this to Johnson, and as a result, there were bombing attacks on targets in North Vietnam. Johnson said, "We may have to escalate. I'm not going to do it without congressional authority." And he put forward a resolution, the language of which gave complete authority to the president to take the nation to war. The Tonkin Gulf Resolution.
The Gulf of Tonkin incident was a water battle involving northern Vietnam and the U.S. Lyndon Johnson and Robert McNamara helped the U.S. throughout the battle. The U.S. were the victors. Operation Rolling Thunder started in 1965. The first U.S. combat troops were sent to Vietnam in March, and by the end of the year, there were 200,000 U.S. troops there.
This was the first major conventional clash between the USA and NVA at La Durang. By 1967, there were 490,000 U.S. troops in Vietnam.
The massacre was led by William Calley, targeting innocent civilians. A year later, Nixon comes up with the idea of Vietnamization.
Over the past several weeks, you have heard a number of reports on TV, radio, and in your newspapers on the situation in Southeast Asia. I think the time has come for me as President and as Commander-in-Chief of our armed forces to put these reports in perspective, to lay all the pertinent facts before you, and to let you judge for yourselves as to the success or failure of our policy. When I left Washington in January of 1961, after serving 8 years as Vice President under President Eisenhower, there were no American combat forces in Vietnam. No Americans had died in combat in Vietnam. When I returned to Washington as President 8 years later, there were 540,000 American troops in Vietnam. 31,000 had died there. 300 Americans were being lost every week. And there was no comprehensive plan to end the United States' involvement in the war. I implemented a plan to train and equip the South Vietnamese to withdraw American forces and to end American involvement in the war just as soon as the South Vietnamese had developed the capacity to defend their country against communist aggression. Now, on this chart on my right, you can see how our plan has succeeded. In June of 1969, I announced a withdrawal of 25,000 men. In September, 40,000. December, 50,000. April of 1970, 150,000. By the 1st of next month, May 1st, we will have brought home more than 265,000 Americans, almost half of the troops in Vietnam when I took office. Every action taken by this administration, every decision made, has accomplished what I said it would accomplish. They have reduced American involvement. They have drastically reduced our casualties. And generations in the future will look back at this difficult, trying time in America's history, and they will be proud that we demonstrated that we had the courage and the character of a great people. Thank you.
I say this war is over.
By 1970, 280,000 U.S. troops were left in Vietnam. Also, secret peace talks were held in Paris, and there were large-scale anti-war demonstrations throughout the USA. In 1973, a ceasefire was signed in Paris, and the last of the U.S. soldiers left Vietnam, concluding the event.